Joining me today is a volleyball alum, someone who I had the pleasure of being able to see play on the court during my time at JU. We went through several years together at the university. Someone who I actually get to work with a little bit in the professional setting now, but an exciting interview today with Kerry Bosworth. Kerry, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we were just talking about the weather. I said that I'm unnecessarily wearing a jacket. It's finally a sunny, beautiful day, and Kerry's got her background to make it look maybe a little bit better than it is up there. So
yeah, we are currently covered in snow and in our third snowstorm of the year, while you're comfortable down in Florida in your 80-degree weather.
It was raining, all week, so
yeah,
it was uncomfortable. It was, the wind was blowing a little bit. So, so Kerry, let's start. I guess let me just let you introduce just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we'll kind of go through the progression of JU and what you're doing professionally.
Sure. Yeah. So Carrie Bosworth, I grew up playing volleyball, played volleyball at JU. I'm sure we'll dive into that background a little bit. Fast forward 20 years, I am a group vice president at YEXT, which is a site search software company based in New York City. Pandemic life, I live out in Long Island at my house, but, prior to that, lived between the city and Long Island. And I have been running software sales teams for 15 years. So I'm on my 15th year of my career and currently have about 100 people in our group that are in our commercial business segment that roll up to me, and we sell our software solutions to, I cover North America. So across the US with teams in New York City, Chicago, Dallas, and San Francisco.
Fantastic. Awesome. So let's talk obviously about the university stuff and sports and all that, since this is the athletic podcast, and then we'll get into the professional stuff. So let's talk a little bit first. I think it's always interesting the amount of people we've had on. And by the way, I don't even think I told you this, you're the first volleyball alum that we've had on. So you get that distinction. If we're going to reach out, we got to get Kerry Bosworth as the number one.
I would argue and question why you started with the soccer team, but we can save that for another podcast.
It has something to do with my wife being part of it. Yeah, either way. All right, so Kerry, let's start with, let's go all the way to the start. Tell me a little bit about, I think it's always interesting to know what, kind of piqued your interest in the university, and then what eventually, helped you make the decision to go play volleyball for the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's great. So I grew up playing volleyball. I played a lot of club and high school sports, obviously. I think club was my bigger focus, which allowed me to travel around the US and have more, visibility from college coaches in different states. I grew up on Cape Cod and in Massachusetts. So it's not like I grew up knowing what Jacksonville University was, or that I was anywhere close to where the university was based. Although we do have some Cape Cod folks that represent and the alumni for Jacksonville and soccer team. So, I was in a club sport, and Anne Marie, who was the coach at the time for Jacksonville, played volleyball in college with my club coach. So I was introduced to Jacksonville University through a connection on the club side of the sport. And I came down, I actually think it was my birthday weekend, came to Jacksonville on a recruiting trip. And I met the team, and I met with Anne Marie, and I loved that we were close to the beach and it was warm weather as I sit up here in my third blizzard of the year. So I sort of decided I wanted to go a little bit further from home and try out warmer weather, and also have the experience. And really, out of all the recruiting trips I went on and all the people that I had met, I think I bonded and respected the team and Anne Marie the most, and felt the most comfortable. So it was really started with the network and the people, which I think probably bodes well into us talking about the rest of my life, because I feel like that's what it's all been about.
That's awesome. That's great. So, so you make the decision, come through. So tell me just a little bit about your time with the team, your time going through university, just some of the highlights of, trying to balance the workload and being a student athlete and all that.
Yeah, for me, it's the only thing that I know, right? I grew up playing at a young age at a pretty high level. So structure and routine and having those types of schedules is all that I know. I don't think I would have done well in college if I didn't have a sport as my anchor. So getting up early, going to practice, having to do the early classes so that you could have, get to practice and also travel. That's something that I grew up doing. So it was very comfortable for me. I think, generally speaking, the rigor that playing a sport, especially at the D1 level, puts into your life life is something that's been a foundation for me throughout the course of my life and my career, which we can talk more about. But for me, that schedule and having that team environment was very comfortable. I think you automatically, have a level of support that gives you an advantage, frankly, to other people that might be coming to the university without the team. We come in August for preseason if you're on the volleyball team, and you get to spend time with the team without having to worry about class for a month, and go through training and bond and, go and play some of those tournaments. So for me, it was super helpful, especially coming from 2,000 miles away, to be at school as an 18-year-old.
Right. Yeah. I remember we had Lauren Bishop now, on the show a while ago. And she was just talking about the camaraderie, not only with the team that she was on, but the athletic department overall, and just being able to walk in to, the CAF and have, a table full of athletes. And you're like, you had that family feel from the very beginning. So
yeah, and I think
it's a nice setting. And I think,
yeah, we were all in preseason in August. So the other thing is, like, the reason why most of my best friends are on the soccer teams is because, volleyball and soccer came in at preseason at the same time. So while we were all on campus before the student body came to campus. So we were able to, get to know each other, kind of all going through the same things, whether it was our first year or our fourth year in regards to early practices and double sessions and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very grateful for that. I think it gave us immediate community, especially a lot of us coming from out of state.
Sure. So talk to me a little bit about some highlights or great memories from your time playing with the ladies that you did.
What kind of rating do we want on these memories?
We always say university appropriate.
Yeah. Okay, then I'm going to keep 90% of the memories out. No, look, I think my favorite memories with the team were always traveling for our games. So we traveled across the US. Anne-Marie and the coaching staff and the athletic department did a great job of giving us every year, before we kicked off our conference play, we would go on a bigger trip. My favorite trip was when we went to Oregon and we went out to the West Coast and got to play against some of the big league teams from a volleyball perspective out there. And not only was the competition awesome and the experience awesome, but we also, I think our team for me was the tightest that year because we went on a trip that was, far away and took some coordination, and we all spent a lot of time together. We also typically would tie those trips around where someone was from. So Carrie Wendell and Jessica Wendell Riles were both from Oregon. So it was cool to go and meet their family and be hosted by someone's family who's traveled, across the country to come play at JU. So that was an experience that I'll never forget. We did the same. I think it was the following year we went up and played at Brown University in Rhode Island, and my family hosted at our house on the Cape, and it was great. It's just, I think it was a really cool way to tie in people's families, especially for those that are out of state, and also have some really great experiences, volleyball and otherwise, prior to the season starting. That's
fantastic. So do you still keep in touch with, a handful or a majority of the people that you played with?
I keep in touch. My core best friends from college, I keep in touch with. You've interviewed most of them. And, on the volleyball team, I think I'm a big fan of mentorship just in my life. And I think the people that served as mentors for me, whether as a friend or in my career or, even later on in life, I definitely still keep in touch with Aiko. Remember, Aiko was a senior when I was a freshman, and she was a setter, which was my position. And she gave me a hard time my whole freshman year, but we became really good friends, and she kind of prepared me for taking over the reins from her. And then, Jess and her husband, Jason Riles, are in my life, and then Dove on the soccer team and some of the other soccer players. So I think for me, I was close to the people that were on our team, but I also, again, because of preseason and the way the dorms and the apartments were set up, I was really close to people on some of the other teams as well. So I think I had kind of a wide variety of friendships there.
There you go. That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned Jason Riles, because I know he's been getting just more and more jealous the more we bring Brian Williams on and Chad Houseman and Oliva and now you and Dove. So at least he got a mention, and now I guess we're going to have to bring him on. So
yeah, I can't wait to submit questions for him. That'll be fun.
That's right. We'll open that up for at least a week just to make sure everyone gets their opportunity. So
you also need to introduce him as Ralphie, because no one's going to know who he is. So you got to use the right name.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think he actually ended up spelling it differently right after college before he went to Jason. Went back to Jason.
Trying to go more professional than Ralphie, I think.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So one of the things that really interests me, just obviously going through it myself, is like you said, you grow up playing, you're hyper focused on maybe a few sports. And then obviously when you get to the D1 level, you're all in. It's sports and academics, and it's so focused for so long. And then you get done, and such a small majority of us get to go on and try at the professional level. And so you really have this shift, almost an identity of you've been an athlete your entire life, and now you've graduated, you're done, you've got to find that next thing. So I want to hear from your perspective, because you've gone on to do some great things professionally, which obviously we'll get to.
Yeah.
But what was that experience like, and how did you transition from student athlete to your professional career?
The transition was very difficult for me. So that identity piece that like really hits home, because it was a very difficult transition. It took me a minute. I was actually recruited to play in Europe. So I had aspirations that I was going to keep playing after JU, and I kind of helped out my like 5th year, I guess, and from a coaching perspective. So I thought that I would go continue to play and then potentially build a career from that and get into coaching. So I had a certain life path that I had always thought I would take. That I had some family stuff go on, and then decided not to do the Europe thing, mostly because I thought about it, and like at the time, and still, you really can't come back, and like there's not like a ton of money in professional volleyball. Like, how are you going to have a career and like have a life after that, especially if you come back when you're 30 after 5 years of playing in Europe or something of that nature. So I started to think about it. And I shifted I got out of the college. So I stopped playing, and then I got out of the college coaching thought process, mostly because I really didn't want to have to depend on moving around to all these colleges. If, it's a tough life sometimes. If you're not a coach that sits somewhere for 20 years, you're kind of, have to go where the job is in a lot of cases, and that could be anywhere. So I moved into training. So I did a lot of training I moved up to Ohio as kind of like a random stint, not near the beach, which I didn't love, for 2 years. And I helped out the Ohio State University team for volleyball and basketball. We had a training facility. So when they couldn't train with their coach, we would run programs there. So I was a trainer / kind of helping with the volleyball specific athletic stuff. That was great for a couple of years, and I, liked it. I didn't love it as much as playing or coaching. And then I honestly, one day I woke up and I was like, I'm not making enough money, and I don't love this, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I was an education major at JU. Colleen Wilson was my professor, and I'm still in touch with her today, actually. That didn't fit me either. So I had a really hard time figuring out, like, who am I going to be if I'm not an athlete? Because it was such a core part of my life. And again, if I'm not going to coach, what am I going to do? I took a Monster, this is aging me a little bit, but I guess we're all past our 20-year reunion. I took a Monster personality test at the time. If you remember those, like where you could try to figure out like, what is your personality match to the job? And I took it 5 times, because the first time I'm like, sales, like, what do you say? I don't even understand. Like, I didn't even know what sales was.
It has to be broken. It has to be broken.
Like, I don't even know what am I going to sell? Like, my parents, they weren't corporate America. My dad's in real estate, and, I'm very familiar with the real estate side of things. So anyway, I took it again, and then I tried to like change my answers, but I'm so competitive that I just couldn't get out of sales. So I was like, all right, I might as well just try this. So I was in Ohio. I hated Ohio. I wanted to get out of there, and I applied for a couple jobs, and one of them was a software company at the time where their headquarters was in Laguna Beach, California. And I always wanted to live in California. So I'm like, I'm going to just apply for this. Somehow I'm going to figure this out, get promoted quickly, and try to get to headquarters so that I can play beach volleyball. That's all I want to do. I was like, I need to figure out a lifestyle where I'm playing beach again, because I loved beach, and frankly, wish I could go to JU now because they have beach scholarships,
right?
Which is awesome. So I did that. And then I actually did get promoted. I moved out to Laguna Beach, and I had a great lifestyle. I was on the beach, working out all the time, playing beach volleyball every Sunday. I learned how to surf, all that kind of stuff. And then my career started to take off in software sales, and I started to kind of evolve and, get better at it and like it and make some money. I got an opportunity to move up to San Francisco about 5 or 6 years later to take a job with Salesforce, which most people probably know at that time in 2009, people didn't know who Salesforce was, but they're a technology company and one of the biggest tech companies in the world currently. And when I moved up there, I was with Salesforce for a year or two, and then I got an opportunity to move into leadership. And when I moved into leadership, which took me until I was 32, 33 years old. So we leave college at 21, 22. It took me 10 years to figure out my identity really, and like settle into that. But leadership has been where I think I fit the best post being an athlete. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I felt like I should.
Well, no, I mean, it seems to track, right? I mean, it was the coaching aspect, and it's just going from the court to, a boardroom or whatever it is. So it seems like a lot of people have that similar story where they didn't quite know, and then they kind of lean back on what drove them as an athlete. and they've just kind of shifted that identity to make it fit, whether that's their lifestyle or, to help them in their career.
Yeah. And I think, my sales teams would probably tell you that I run our teams. I mean, if I could make them do push-ups, for missing a number, I would, but we can't do that. But I run the team from a very athletic kind of focus on the background, from a background perspective. So daily routines, habits, accountability, all the things that, sports gave me as a foundation. And sales is naturally competitive. So we feed off of people's competitive nature. And also, I believe in highly collaborative teams, which when you look at the best teams at JU or throughout your career, they're all the ones that are mostly the closest knit. So I lead in a way that's foundationally built off of my athletic career, but it did take me quite a long time to settle in and feel really like this is my new identity and I'm good with this versus like being a professional athlete or coaching.
Got it. So within your position at YEXT, and I guess even before it's Salesforce, did you see, a competitive advantage with former athletes, whether they were D1, D2, D3, whatever, but someone that had that athletic background for, all the things that we could probably go through, but there's just that certain type of makeup in a person that has to balance all the different aspects of being a student athlete. And that carries over, I think, a lot to at least the people that we've talked to. So have you seen a competitive advantage with the people that you brought in on your teams and had to work with that have that athletic background?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, for me, I recruit a lot. So when I see someone that has an athletic background, especially if it's a Division I athletic background, it's like a pot of gold. If they have the right background, including the athletic piece. I think even beyond the competitive nature, which is obviously like a no-brainer, usually from people that have an athletic background, the daily habits and the accountability that people hold themselves to intrinsically coming from that background is what's really interesting to me. So, I can only do so much to motivate people to want to work. Like you have to have your own way of like motivating yourself. And you also, your day isn't going to go that well, especially in sales when it is all about like output is the result. If you start your day at 8:30 and roll out of bed and like you're a mess. So, the people on my team that are getting up, giving them some time, and it's adjusted because of the pandemic, but giving themselves some time in the morning, those that, I work out in the morning. I have such a very strict regimented morning routine. And I think it sets me up for success for the rest of the day. I think that people that have that foundation and kind of grew up and had 20 years of doing that type of thing every day from college and then beyond, it comes a little bit more natural. And I think they're more successful because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, let's get into a little bit about YEXT and your move from Salesforce, like you said, back then to where it is now. I can't imagine anyone watching this is going to go Salesforce, not familiar. So, and YEXT is really on its way to that as well. I know that you've had, some pretty explosive growth. Like I said, we use them at Adaptive for a lot of our clients. So, it's kind of fun having someone on that I work with, like I said, not necessarily directly on a daily basis with you, but certainly with the company. So tell the viewers just a little bit about YEXT, I guess at the core of what y'all are doing. And I know there's some pretty exciting things going on within the company as well.
Yeah. So we help companies with their brand is the high level explanation. So whether that's on Google or on their own site, like we're helping with brands, but what we really are is a search company. So our product, our flagship product, Answers, is a site search product. So when you go to a site, it's amazing how many websites you go to that you can't find anything you're looking for. And I think the stat is if the consumer we're all impatient. So if you can't find something within like 11 seconds, I think that's the LinkedIn survey, people bounce and they go to Google. And if they go to Google and they try to find what they're looking for on Google, they're likely to hit a competitor site and then you lose the business. So what we're trying to do is help brands be their own, give the answers for their own products. There's a lot of sites that you'll go to where Campbell Soup is a good example. You can go to Google and you can search how many calories or, how much sodium is in a tomato soup. The answer that comes up is not even from Campbell's. It's a blogger or it's an influencer. It's someone that's decided to, share soup recipes that answers that question. We're trying to put brands in control, and in doing that, not only on Google, when we've done, as we came out with this product, we saw a big gap in the market in regards to site search. So when you go to someone's website, keywords, people don't search by one keyword anymore. You search a long tail search. So if you were to go to, a physician's website, or as an example, and you were to search for, I would search, I need a pediatrician that speaks Spanish, and deals with X issue versus just the pediatrician's name. You don't know that person's name. So you're searching, you know, as you would on Google, you're searching on people's sites. So what we're doing is providing, helping them to surface the answers to those long tail questions and kind of map to the way that consumers search versus the old way of keywords and then blue links. You don't want to click. The more clicks it takes, the more frustrated people get because they're impatient and they go back to Google. So that's what we're doing at the core of things now.
Sure. And I know, you know, the evolution of, you know, from a digital marketing perspective, like you said, with the links, you know, that, you know, the breadcrumbs throughout the site, that was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And now with mobile facing, you know, it just continues to trend. I mean, it's been that way for a long time where more people are searching most sites on a mobile device, and that just keeps pushing more and more toward mobile. So if they're having to click and pinch and do all that stuff, you're right, they're going to go away because the experience as a user really goes down. So I love what you guys are doing as far as letting someone control their own brand, because like you said, even inside of a keyword, you know, just like a base keyword, it's really hard for a local company, especially, to try to go rank number one.
Right.
But if they're already doing a great job locally, and someone's like, okay, well, I know this physician or this insurance agency or whatever, if they're trying to just find the person that they met at, you know, a golf outing, or they're looking for the one product that they think this company provides, then it keeps them on that site. So I think it's great. And like I said, we use it with a lot of our clients to some great success. So the other thing that I love about what YEXT is doing is helping with location-based stuff. So can you talk a little bit about just kind of wrapping your arms around, you know, especially if one, we'll just use the physician as an example, has 3 different locations, how you guys help them kind of wrap their arms around all the data that comes with locations?
Yeah, I mean, that's all, again, about their digital brand. So we have a platform, and built off that platform are different applications to help people manage their brand. So locations and what we call listings is one of the products that we sell. If you think about that physician or that doctor's office, not only do you need to be able to find that person, but you're also going to want to know what their hours are, what kind of, you know, treatments do they offer, are they closed during this blizzard, all this different type of stuff. And, you know, that's one example. We work with all industries, but our location product helps people manage that from one place. And when you think about like the McDonald's, who has hundreds of thousands of locations, like you can't go manually update all of that through a Google My Business account. That has to be managed through something. There's also over thousands of publishers that Google pulls from to create the score for you on Google, so that Google wants to make sure that your data is accurate across all the different sites that they crawl. So if it's not, and you're not aware of some of those sites, then it could affect your ranking. So when you're using YEXT, not only do we help your ranking because we push it out to all those publishers, including Google, Facebook, Amazon, like all the big ones, but we're also helping you manage that from one centralized location. And, you know, the big thing is like, if you can find it on Google and then you go to that website of that customer, you don't want to then, you know, you're spending all this money to get people to go from Google to your site and then have a conversion, whatever that is, whether it's book the appointment, make the phone call, whatever that looks like. So the last thing you want to do is have them go to your site, not be able to find anything, bounce back to Google and find a competitor and leave. So, you know, we are, you know, affecting bottom line revenue. So CEOs and CMOs are really interested to talk to us, especially in regards to that site search piece. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know, you know, like you said, the listings, there's over 140 that you deal with, and there's some that are just very obscure. You know, obviously you're dealing with, like you said, the Google, Bing, Waze, like some of the bigger ones, but then there's some you just, you know, from our perspective, it's like, I have no idea what this is, but like you said, within 100th of a second, Google's going to look at all 140, and it's down to, you know, the period at the end of your address, or, you know, the way that you're putting your phone number in. And so it's all these things. When he said to try to do that, I don't care how big or small a company is, to try to manage that manually, it's impossible. So, you know, having that one, you know, portal that they can go in, make the updates, it's a pretty big no-brainer for any size company. So it's pretty great. So what are some of the big things that you guys are working on? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of expansion going on. Like I said, Answers is rolling out, or I guess rolling down, to, you know, make it more accessible to other companies. But what are some of the big things you guys are working on right now?
Answers is the biggest. So we don't really have like a direct competitor that can do what we do right now. So we are in a special time. I actually was at Salesforce during this special time as well in 2009 to 2014, I would say, and then everybody started to catch up. So, you know, there isn't really a competitor that can do these long tail searches and can really help surface the answers in the way that we're delivering. We have expanded not only our teams, but also our market. So our total addressable market, our TAM, has expanded because of Answers. So traditionally, if we're selling listings, we have to sell to companies that have locations. So we never were able, we weren't really able to sell into CPG like a Campbell's Soup or into tech, where Salesforce, yeah, it's great that their office locations are up, but that's not really what they're interested in. They care more about their site. So we're able to sell to anybody now because everybody has a website. And especially as you think about how people are, I think pandemic aside, people are heavily leveraging Google and websites and those types of things to find information. Then you throw the pandemic on top of it, and now everybody's at home searching for everything from their laptops. It's kind of changed that landscape, but we are very focused on Answers and site search. And we are, a search company. And that, I think, is where our biggest opportunity lies as a company. And I think it's where we're going to be able to help our customers the most.
That's awesome. So I'll give you a quick story. Yesterday, my 4-year-old's playing shop downstairs, and she says, "Daddy, do you want to come buy some stuff?" And she gives me some fake money. I give her the money, and she's got 2 pencils. And I said, "Oh, are these 25 cents?" She said, and she has her fake computer. It's nothing there. And she looks and goes, "Actually, someone's already purchased these online." My 4-year-old said that.
Right.
I mean, that's where we are. So
my 4-year-old
nephew, the point of
people, an iPad. Yeah, it's all.
So if my 4-year-old knows that people are online shopping more than in person, I think you guys are onto something.
Yeah, I mean, look, like if you're going to spend the money to get somebody to your site and people spend a lot of money in search and SEO to get people to go to their website, you really want to keep them there and you want them to convert. So I think there's a big opportunity for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess I've got 2 more questions, and one will probably be easier than the other. Number one, so kind of back to the recruiting aspect, recruiting and leadership of what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. What is really the one thing, and where I'm thinking about this question is for the current student athletes, or maybe even incoming student athletes, as they go through that transition, what's the one thing that you and YEXT overall look for in a potential candidate?
I think that, there's only so much experience you can gain coming out of college. So, when we recruit people, when we recruit directly out of college, it's for our business development team. So it's entry level where you can start to get your feet wet, answer the incoming, leads that are happening, people going to the website and start to understand the industry. The thing for me, and whether it's coming out of college or frankly, like 10 to 15 years in your career, the biggest thing is like, I can't teach the innate skills. I can't teach someone to, again, have the right habits where they're getting up and they're proactive and they're organized and they have good communication skills and they think thoughtfully before they respond or reach out to a customer and or internal. So people that are, natural go-getters, naturally competitive, naturally collaborative, that you can trust, and they can express that in an interview is super important. I think people that can tell a good story, no one wants to buy from someone that's like choppy on the phone and you can't really talk to. So from a sales perspective, like if you can tell your story well, how did you, questions you're asking me today, like how did you end up at JU? What did you focus on when you were at JU? And if you can tell that story where it's engaging and you're keeping my attention, like you're likely going to be able to tell stories to customers in the same kind of way. So I think looking for that innate skill set that you can't really teach, that you sort of just gain over years of your life, is what I am highly interested in. And, I think it's important that you perform in college, whether it's through a GPA or you talk about some of the interesting courses that you took, but I don't think the major is like the definitive factor. I mean, I majored in education and not in sales tech. No one would have, Colleen Wilson, if she's listening to this, would be like, how did you even end up doing this? So I think you can make what you want out of life. I just think that the way that your work ethic is a big part of that. So I look for work ethic and communication skills and things that, hopefully you've gained some of that throughout a college experience.
That's awesome. So the final one, and like I said, it's maybe a little bit harder to answer, but looking back, it's fun kind of going down memory lane as we go through these interviews. And again, if you have something great, if not, don't worry about it. But thinking back through your career and playing at JU, what's the one thing you would have done differently?
It's an easy answer, actually, for me.
Okay.
I would have treated my body different. So as it relates to nutrition and sleep and just like making sure that I was going to be at my best each day, like I think I would have treated my body a little different. I mean, you obviously want to have fun, but I think I could have, I think looking back, I, have evolved as a person in my life and do that now. And I think if I had done that in college, I maybe would have been playing pro. You never know. But I think that it's hard in college because there's a lot of fun to be had and there's a lot going on. And you shift from where like I had homemade meals every day, and then you move to like a cafeteria, like making those decisions and having more experience and knowledge around nutrition and like how you should treat your body while you're in college, I think is super important. So I would have changed that.
That's a great we've talked about that a few times, and even some of the baseball guys that still live in town that I talk to and go for runs with and stuff like that. I think a majority of us are in better shape now than we were at JU. We can't play as well as we did, but overall better shape. And I know the university is doing an incredible job of helping them round out from the physical, mental. There's just a lot of things that they're doing. So again, it's kind of that there's a jealousy factor in what the student athletes get now, but I suppose that's a good thing. If it was the same, there wouldn't be a lot of advancement going on at the athletic department. So,
and I think physical and mental, I mean, that's a good point to bring up the mental health. I think the physical and the mental health kind of all go together, and there wasn't a lot of education back then, JU or anywhere really. And I think I think it's fantastic that they're focusing on that. And I think it's really important. And I think it definitely affects how all of us, I mean, we all probably could have been higher level athletes than we already were. And, at the time we're 20 and our bodies bounce back. So we still played and we still were top level athletes, but imagine if we had the right education around nutrition and mental health. I just think it makes a big difference. So
that's great. It's a great answer. Well, Kerry, thank you very much for coming on. If you're ever back down and want to escape the snow and come back to sunny Jacksonville, we'd love to have you on campus and do a follow-up. So thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Pat. It's great to see you, and go Dolphins.